All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches. We are into week one of football now. This is your host, Coach Steve, coming at you guys live today, Sunday morning. Kickoff is in well 3 hours, 3.5 hours now, and we are getting so close. So I figured today I would just come on a good 30 minutes or less, just talk about some of the players today that's going on here. If you have any fantasy questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat, and I will get to them in the time frame that I'm sitting here on. So anyone tunes in, please enjoy. So to start off the bat, obviously some big news that came out, especially injury-wise over the weekend here now. Again, we're still waiting for the official reports on a lot of situations here. But off the bat here, it's expected that Jerry Jeudy is expected to miss this game here for the Denver Broncos against the Las Vegas Raiders. Definitely kind of somewhat of expected situation here. If you watched our show earlier in the week, I did mention that should probably go out and pick up Marvin Mims or, probably start Marvin Mims if he was on your dynasty rosters or whatever. It does help Marvin Mims now. He's probably becomes more of a sleeper candidate this week here. He should be a potential flex option for you in a very favorable matchup against the Raiders. Courtland Sutton definitely just gets an upgrade there. He's probably a pretty confirmed wide receiver 2 in this matchup. It definitely hurts Russell Wilson a little bit because I think Russell and Jerry Jeudy did have some of a connection, which is really nice to see. I don't know if it really helps the tight end position because I'm not really sure what's going on with Greg Dulcich and Adam Thielen overall, but it is what it is. Then you have obviously the running back core. The receiving game should then probably see an uptake in terms of targets overall. Sorry about that. My dog's barking at somebody. Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine should see targets in the backfield for sure. Darren Waller is expected to play. Definitely a little risky because he is dealing with an injury, so just monitor that. It could be at any moment he could get hurt in this game here, so keep that in mind when starting him this week. Ramondre Stevenson is playing in this game, which is great. Kendre Miller is to miss the opening, the Saints rookie running back, which will definitely allow Jamal Williams to be the lead back for this team here overall, which is fantastic. Mark Andrews, unlikely to play today, which was really big news for fantasy last night when he, again, not official yet, but he is unlikely to play, which would leave Isaiah likely to be the starting tight end for the Baltimore Ravens here. Great for him. Obviously, he definitely gets a bump, and if you don't have him in a normal redraft league, he should be probably rostered at this point today and should be a top 14 play in terms of tight ends. His athletic ability is to rave about, and when he's got an opportunity to play and start, he's done very well overall, which is fantastic. It definitely gives a bump to maybe Rashard Bateman, definitely Zay Flowers across over the middle of the field, Odell Beckham. All the Ravens wide receivers definitely get a bump a little bit. You could say it hurts Lamar Jackson to some extent because he does have a really strong connection with Mark Andrews. Not having on the field definitely doesn't help overall. But likely the elite tight ends we all drafted, or if you've had them or traded for them in Dynasty, it definitely sucks. Adam Thielen is expected to play today. Again, he was nothing more than a flexible option at best. Devon Achane, the Dolphins, rookie running back, is out today. He is going to be inactive in this game, which gives Raheem Mostert a pretty good shot as a strong RB2. Savon Ahmed in deeper leagues might be a flex play for your deeper man leagues, but Raheem Mostert is definitely in line for a big workload today. So those are most of the injury news and overall things like that. Something to keep you guys in mind on. Again, we won't find the official word on injuries until about 11:30. That's usually when injuries kind of come out overall for teams for the whole day. So we'll know more about that point here. And again, you can always, I'll probably post some things over on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy to find more things. But going to quickly just dive into each game real quick, give a little intake overall. I mean, we start with the Panthers game. We love a good indoor game overall. Can't hate that on overall. Quarterbacks, not really starting either one of these guys unless you're in a super flex league. Then you can take consideration as a QB2. The running backs today, B.J. Robinson is obviously a clear RB1 for this matchup here. Expect at least a 40-60 split in week one with Tyler Algier getting some work, but not enough to really take Robinson's workload away and not give him an RB1 week. Miles Sanders, I know a lot of people like Miles Sanders because of the injuries at the wide receiver position for the Panthers, but this could be a trap game for Miles Sanders this week. He's banged up already, dealing with injuries here. He's not a really big pass-catching back here, and I do expect the Panthers to actually be behind in this game. I think this might be a surprise for a lot of people. The Falcons' defense is really good. On the pass-catching side, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, you start them, lower your expectation overall. That's just the way things work with these guys. Kadero Hodges or Scotty Miller could be in for a big week. The slot play for the Falcons last year, destroyed the Panthers defense last year. So keep that in mind. Again, and this is a deeper man league kind of situation there. On the other side, Adam Thielen, again, flexible option at best. Again, I don't really see the upside with him coming on an injury. Jonathan Mingo is a nice boom or bust play for a flex option this week here because of DJ Shark being out this week. I do like him. Hayden Hurst has a favorable matchup, so if you're streaming tight ends and you're maybe in a little bit of a deeper 14 to 16-man league, he's definitely a decent play overall. Bengals-Browns, a game that's outside the potential rain in this game here. The Lions said that Cincinnati is going to win this game, but, Cleveland has been very good at home against the Cincinnati Bengals over their career, and this could be a game where the Browns win this game, and it should not come to a shock because based on what we've seen a lot of times here. Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, both solid QB1s to start for the week. I think Deshaun Watson's a little underrated for a lot of people in the world there, but I think he could end up having a pretty solid performance. You start Joe Mixon, you start Nick Chubb pretty obviously. Both those guys are must-starts in this matchup here. Just the workload alone is enough to get them ahead. Jamar Chase is obviously a must-start here. T. Higgins, obviously solid wide receiver too, flex option. We've seen T. Higgins not be able to perform to a high standard with Jamar Chase on the field. Wouldn't probably start Irv Smith in his first game as a Bengal. Target share kind of scares me what he's going to receive in this offense overall. Brown side, Amari Cooper's a must-start player. David Njoku, I think, is a must-start tight end for this week here. You could flex on from Peoples-Jones and Elijah Moore. Peoples-Jones had actually really good games against the Bengals last year, and it'd be interesting to see if he continues to be that deep threat for the team. Elijah Moore is kind of a wild card because we're just not really sure what kind of role he's going to have. They expect big things from him, but he can be used in many different ways in this offense, so it's intriguing to see what he's able to do, but just a flex option. Jags Colts, nice indoor game. Obviously, we love a good indoor game here. Actually, surprisingly enough, whoever the home team is between these two, the Jags and Colts, the home team always wins. So it's surprising because the Colts are home this week, and they did win their home game last year against the Jaguars. So that will be really interesting to see. You start Trevor Lawrence for sure. Obviously, he's a QB1 in this matchup here. Anthony Richardson is more of a boom-bust play because we're just not really sure what we're going to get out of him in week one. I don't think the Jags' defense is something to super concerned about, but you had to take the risk with Anthony Richardson's lack of ability in the passing game consistency. So Travis Etienne, RB2 for this week. Solid play overall. I'd love to see what Tank Bigsby is able to do as his backup and how much of that role is taken away from him. Obviously, no Zach Moss today. It seems pretty doubtful he's playing in this matchup, which leaves Deion Jackson, who had actually a really good game last year against the Jaguars, 10 receptions. Don't think he sees that this year, but a decent RB3 if you're looking for somebody in that situation there. Wide receivers, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk are both starts for sure. Michael Pittman, flex option. I'm not comfortable with it, but he's definitely gives you at least wide receiver 3 value. Evan Ingram is a low-end tight end 1. Not a major fan of his game, but he did have 40 yards in both games versus Colts last year. No one really else in terms of pass catchers really excite me. Maybe deep man leagues. Alec Pierce is interesting overall, but I'm not really trying to start Josh Downs, Isaiah McKenzie, Kalen Grayson, the tight end for the Colts at all this week. Vikings. God, sorry about that. Another indoor game. Love indoor games, like I keep saying. In terms of quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, you start him. He's going to put up high-end QB2 numbers. Should be in for a decent week. Bucs defense is solid, but at home he does pretty well. Baker Mayfield is definitely a sleeper for Superflex leagues at QB2. I mean, the Vikings secondary is a mess still. I don't really think they took enough this offseason to fix it. If you're looking for a play that might give you a QB 18, I think Baker might actually end up being a big surprise for us in week one. Running backs, Rashard White, definitely a must-start RB2 in this matchup here. I'm not concerned with Sean Tucker as the backup in week one. White should get most of the work, especially the receiving work, which we all love. Alexander Madison's an RB2 this week as well. It's a tougher matchup, but I still like him. I think he deserves a shot to be that guy, and I think he will be at least for week one. Pass catching. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, they should be starts. It's such a good matchup. It's very hard to want to start these guys, especially depending on what kind of league format you're in there. But Chris Godwin should be in starting lineups. Mike Evans, flex option. That should be a very positive day for him overall. Not really looking at Cade Otton as a tight end this week. I'd love to see his target share first. Justin Jefferson, obviously a lock. TJ Hawkinson, a lock for starting wide receiver tight end. Then it comes down to J.K. Osborne and Jordan Addison. I think you could both flex these guys here. I think either one of them could end up having a pretty interesting day. Everyone's obviously on the rookie Addison because his speed and his route running ability, but KJ Osborne I think is a very underrated wide receiver that could be very good in this matchup as well. So look out for both of these guys that maybe give out wide receiver 3 numbers potentially. Next one, Titans Saints. Again, another indoor game. We gotta love that here. Ryan Tannehill's coming back as quarterback. Again, he's a decent low-end QB2. Saints defense is pretty solid, but it's an indoor game. Ryan Tannehill is an underrated quarterback, obviously. Should be fine for a solid day in Superflex leagues. Derek Carr, first official game as a Saint. Very favorable matchup. The Titans gave up the 4th most fantasy points last year to quarterbacks. Again, better as a QB2 in Superflex. Sleeper potential as a QB1, but likely you won't start him as a QB1 in a 1 QB league. Running backs, you start Derrick Henry, obviously. Solid matchup against the Saints overall. Love it. Tyjae Spears, I'd like to see more before I consider him even a flexible option. I don't know how much involvement he's going to have with Derrick Henry on the field. Obviously, you said earlier, Kendry Miller's out for the day, so Jamal Williams is a locked and loaded low-end RB2. I don't think there's much upside. Titans defense is pretty solid against running backs, but again, the workload that Jamal Williams will receive in this game likely should be good enough for him to be a nice RB2. Pass catchers, Hopkins, solid wide receiver 2. I think he should see the majority of the target share in this offense here. Treylon Burks, it's more of a wait and see for me. I don't really want to start him until I know what this target share is going to be like. Chigo Okonkwo, he's got a tough matchup against the Saints. They were really, really good against tight ends last year. I probably wouldn't start him if I could this week. Saints side, Chris Olave is a guy I definitely want to start. Obviously, he's an up-and-coming young wide receiver that should be locked for our wide receiver 1 potential season. If you haven't drafted Michael Thomas, you might as well use Michael Thomas. It's a flex option. I mean, it's a good matchup. Titans were terrible against wide receivers last year. You don't know how long you're going to have him for. You might as well play him. Rashad Rashid, likely a deep sleeper and bigger formats. Juwan Johnson is definitely a tight end I'd like to start this week. I think his matchup is good. Derek Carr's been really good with tight ends overall. Next up, 49ers Steelers. Again, we're in Pittsburgh here. Potential rain at this matchup here could really affect this game, but we'll have to wait and see on that. The young quarterbacks, Brock Purdy, Kenny Pickett. Again, they're okay QB2s in Superflex leagues. I'm not really thrilled to start either one because the defensive matchups are pretty good on both sides of the ball. You obviously start Christian McCaffrey. You still start Najee Harris, even though that his matchup is not really good. And obviously Jaylen Warren is getting more work in this offense here, but you still start him as a low-end RB2. McCaffrey is still pretty solid. Wouldn't start Elijah Mitchell, even though that Christian McCaffrey's workload is coming down. It's more of all right, prove it just because you say it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Jaylen Warren, again, I'm not starting him yet until I know what kind of role he really will have. And then you have the pass catchers, Deebo Samuel's wide receiver 2, Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver 2 value potential for both guys there. I do like Brandon Ayuk more. We'll have to wait and see if George Kittle plays or not. Because there's potential he could not play, but we'll see. But I'm sure he's going to play in this matchup here. He's a boom bust tight end 1, obviously, and overall in this matchup, even though I don't like it for him. Deontay Johnson, strong wide receiver 2, love that. George Pickens, a wild card kind of play for him. He's a flex boomer bust guy because you just don't know what this offense is going to do. Deontay Johnson's the wide receiver 1, clear and cut, but Pickens I just don't know. Pat Freiermuth, boomer bust touchdown type player for week 1. Someone who at this point, I don't know if the target share will be there, but if he gets a touchdown, he should be fine overall. Then we have the Arizona Cardinals and the Washington Commanders, the lowest scoring game in terms of Vegas line this week here. Quarterbacks, obviously Joshua Dobbs is starting with maybe Clayton Tune getting some work in. You stay away from that. Sam Howell time. I love Sam Howell in 2 QB leagues for Superflex this week. He's definitely is a must start for me in that. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up as a top 12 quarterback in week 1 because of how bad the Cardinals defense is. But we'll have to wait and see on that. James Conner, low-end RB2, high-end RB3. I know the workload is there, but the defensive matchup is so tough, and the quarterback situation makes things very, very scared for week 1 for me. I like Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, both as flex options this week in terms of running backs. I think Robinson could end up having the better day just because I think this game could get out of hand where the Commanders are ahead overall. Hollywood Brown is playing in this matchup. He's the only player I want to start in this pass catching core as a wide receiver 3 value for him. That's about it. Terry McLaurin is coming off a foot injury. He seems to be fully healthy and ready to go. I think you're looking at a low end wide receiver 2 potential for him. overall. Jahan Dotson is a solid, sleeper appeal this week. High-end wide receiver 3 with upside in his game to finish actually ahead of Terry McLaurin overall. If you're looking for a waiver wire tight end, it's Logan Thomas. Excellent matchup. The Cardinals were the second worst team versus tight ends last year. If you're really desperate at tight end, Logan Thomas, I think, be good enough to start in lineups. Next on the board, Houston Texans, Baltimore Ravens. Again, outdoor game in Baltimore, scattered thunderstorms. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not starting C.J. Stroud in game 1. The Ravens were a really good defense down the stretch last year, and I think they just got better as the year went on. I'm not starting the rookie in week 1. Lamar Jackson's a must start, but just hope that it's not because his passing probably is going to be off his rushing ability. Houston was really good against fantasy wide receivers because you could run on them, and I think that's what might happen today in this matchup here. You start Dameon Pierce as an RB2, low-end RB2 potential there for him. Not thrilled with his overall, but the workload is good enough, and I don't think the Ravens are a rush defense that's worth being too scared of overall. So Devin Singletary, you don't start him, obviously. You start J.K. Dobbins, obviously high-end RB2 potential, maybe RB1 this week. Gus Edwards, if you're desperate, I think there's flex appeal with Gus Edwards if he gets enough touches in this matchup, which it could very well must be. This is the biggest line at the Ravens were minus 10. So this could be a game where they're ahead and you just throw in Gus Edwards late game and he can just eat on the ground. Pass catchers, Nico Collins is definitely an interesting wide receiver 3 value. I think that's the only guy I really want to start in terms of the wide receivers overall because I like his potential in this offense. Dalton Schultz, low-end tight end 1, you start him if you're looking for tight end this week. Obviously, we already know Mark Andrews is likely out. I think Isaiah Likely has top 14 potential for this week if he gets the starting spot, obviously. But we just don't know what's going to happen there with the target share, especially with all these pass-catching wide receivers there now. Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham, Rashard Bateman. I think they're all wide receiver 3s at best, and maybe one of them breaks out. I do believe it's Zay Flowers overall in my head. So, and we got a first 4:00 game here. Packers, Bears. They're in Lambeau. Should be a pretty sunny day overall. Jordan Love. It's tough to start Jordan Love. Better in a QB league, obviously, but Christian Watson not being there and Romeo Doubs potentially on a snap count. Definitely hate to see that overall. Fields a must-start QB1, obviously, in this matchup. Love that for sure. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, both good plays this week. RB2s. A.J. Dillon maybe an RB3 value per se. So I do like both these guys overall. Khalil Herbert, only Bears I'm starting this week here. I'm trusting that the potentially showed us in the preseason gives him enough workload to be the RB1 for this team overall. Packers were not that great against running backs last year, so he's the only guy as a flex option. I'm starting RB2. Obviously, we already said Christian Watson's out. Romeo Doubs on a snap count. Hard to trust that. I guess if you're looking for a boom or bust wide receiver option, Jalen Reed, the rookie wide receiver from the Packers, you're really sticking your head out there if you're going to start him. But again, there's potential Christian Watson and Doubs both potentially not playing in this matchup or minimally in this matchup here. Luke Musgrave, if you're looking for a tight end replacement, maybe Isaiah Likely's not there for Mark Andrews. He's an interesting option. I mean, he was seeing big target shares in preseason, and I think he might end up seeing 6 or 7 targets in this matchup. And even though it's not a favorable matchup, they need to throw the ball to somebody. Luke Musgrave is a mismatch in the tight end position here. I'm likely going to want to start him if you need that tight end position this week. The pass catchers for the Bears, DJ Moore is locked and loaded RB2, a wide receiver 2 this week in this matchup here. I'm not really starting Darnell Mooney. I'm not starting Chase Claypool just yet. I want to see it first. Again, Cole Kmet is probably the biggest tight end that might be out there in terms for redraft leagues. You start him. You pick him up and start him. He should have a pretty decent day overall as a tight end this week. He had six receptions for 76 yards last time he played the Packers. Raiders Broncos. This game is over in Denver this week. There's potential thunderstorms in this game. You start Russell Wilson and Jimmy G as QB2s in this matchup here. I wouldn't start them as QB1s in a 1 QB league, but in a QB2 league, a Superflex league, they're pretty solid plays overall. They both have potential top 16 play for both of them, top 18 play. Running backs, you start Josh Jacobs. He's dominant against the Denver Broncos. Not touching Zamir White, obviously. Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine. They're going to split time. Both flex options in this matchup here. I think Perine is the one you want to start if you have to start one of them. Just watch out for Jelani McLaughlin, the rookie running back from Denver. That could be a situation where he's getting a ton of buzz about being involved in this matchup here. So we could see maybe a Alvin Kamara type of season for this guy off the bat here. So I maybe need to learn his name correctly. So pass catchers, Davante Adams, you start him no matter what. I don't care if Jimmy G is not a great fit. You still got to start him in this matchup. Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, I'm not really trying to start in this matchup. Myers, if I had to pick one of them. Austin Hooper is a tight end. I'm not really worried about starting. Obviously, no Jerry Jeudy. Already mentioned this. Cortland Sutton, wide receiver 2. Marvin Mims becomes a definitely nice sleeper appeal flex option for you. Not starting the Titans, the tight ends for the Broncos this week. Eagles side here now. Obviously, you start Jalen Hurts. Obviously, not even a question. Mac Jones, not starting him. Not even in QB2 league this year. I really prefer not to. Running back core for the Eagles, definitely tough to gauge over this team here. I think DeAndre Swift is the guy you want to start in PPR leagues. And non-PPR, it's going to gain well. But again, you have to be somewhat low or poor at tight running back to want to start any of these guys for week 1. Ramondre Stevenson, he was sick. He should be fine. He's a borderline RB1 in this matchup here. I still trust him. His receiving value is something that I want to play. Not starting Zeke. Don't want to see that yet. Pass catchers, you start A.J. Brown, you start Devonta Smith, you start Dallas Goedert. Pretty self-explanatory on this matchup. For the Patriots, I'm only trusting really Juju Smith-Schuster. I think his role is pretty locked as the wide receiver 1. He has a pretty good connection this offseason, supposedly, with Mac Jones. I don't want to start Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne. I don't know if I want to start the Patriots tight end core with Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki yet, because I just don't know what we're going to get out of that. We talked about the whole, Hunter Henry and Jonas Smith a couple years ago, and it seemed to be Hunter Henry. So if I'm going to trust someone, I'm going to continue to trust Hunter Henry. He's had the best connection with Mac Jones overall. So next up, I didn't do one for this one, but the Dolphins Chargers here. You start Tua, you start Jalen Hurts here. We do have a question. All right. Big bang boom. Cortland Sutton on Mike Thomas today. I'm starting Cortland Sutton. The Raiders secondary is terrible, and he is locked and loaded as the wide receiver 1. I don't know if Michael Thomas is locked and loaded as the wide receiver 1 for the Saints. I think that still involves Chris Olave overall. I think you have to go with Cortland Sutton as the veteran on this team here, even with, especially with Jerry Jeudy being out. I think Cortland Sutton is the better way to go in this matchup here. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate that. Continuing to where I left off here, you start Tua, you start Justin Herbert. Pretty self-explanatory, easy to go. As I mentioned, Devon Achane is out this game. He's going to be inactive, so that leaves Raheem Mostert as a solid RB2 in this matchup here. Savon Oddman is going to back him up, but I'm not overly concerned about him getting too involved. You start Austin Eckler, pretty easy. You start Tyreek Hill, you start Jalen Waddle. You don't start the tight end for the Dolphins. Please don't do that. Obviously, you probably don't even know his name. Chargers top two pass catchers, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams exploded against the Dolphins last year, unfortunately, but you start them in this matchup here. There's going to be a lot of passes going their way. Jared Everett is definitely a nice sleeper tight end for week 1 here. Dolphins weren't great against tight ends, unfortunately, last year. He should be more involved with Kellen Moore as a new offensive coordinator for this team. You start him in this matchup here. We get back to my notes here. Rams, Seahawks. Playing in Seattle, partly cloudy day, should be a pretty good day. You start Geno Smith. If you're looking for a quarterback to start, maybe you didn't have one of the top guys. Geno Smith should play very well. He did very well last year against this Rams secondary, and they lost Jalen Ramsey this offseason. They're not doing well. You don't start Matthew Stafford. Even in the Superflex leagues, I'm not comfortable starting him because he doesn't have Cooper Kupp. Definitely concerned about his overall play. Like, I could see 240 yards, but 1 touchdown. It's not really a good, worthy quarterback performance for week 1. Running backs, you start Cam Akers. Pretty self-explanatory. Cam Akers is a solid RB2 in this matchup. He played very well against Seattle last year. Kerryon Williams, definitely a sleeper in deeper leagues, is a pass-catching tight end, pass-catching running back in this matchup here. I do like that. Ken Walker, RB2. Zach Charbonnet, flexible option if you're desperate. Not really looking for that. Van Jefferson is a nice wide receiver 3 value. I like Puka Nacua as well as a sleeper appeal in this matchup here. He could fill in for Cooper Kupp and be pretty dominant. I'd be interested to see how that works. Tyler Higbee, lock and loaded, top 8 tight end this week here. Again, Matthew Stafford needs someone he trusts. Tyler Higbee is going to be that guy. You start DK Metcalf, you start Tyler Lockett. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I don't know if I'd start him in week 1, but if you're looking for a potential big play upside, that's the way to go with him. Noah Fant played well last time against the Rams, but again, don't trust him overall. Cowboys, Giants, obviously you might not start either one of these guys. It's a really rain game. It's raining in New Jersey right now. I don't know if I'd want to start either one of these quarterbacks if I don't have to. Obviously, you start them in 2 QB leagues, but if you don't, in a 1 QB league, probably wouldn't. You start Tony Pollard, pretty self-explanatory. I wouldn't start anyone else from the Cowboys backfield. You start Saquon. Darren Waller, you obviously have to start him, but just be cautious with him because, I mean, the injury could have reappeared in this game. We don't like that. Really won't trying to start any Giants wide receivers. If you want to pick one, Darius Slayton is the guy for me. You start CeeDee Lamb, obviously. Brandon Cooks is a solid flex. Michael Gallup's a solid 4. Jake Ferguson is my sleeper tight end this week here. I really do enjoy his ability to potentially score in this matchup. He did well against the Giants in one start last year, so I do like that. Again, Bills-Jets, another rain game that's expected for tomorrow. These teams play each other very well, and they don't score a lot of high points here. If I'm looking for a play here, I mean, you start Josh Allen because you have to. He hasn't played great against the Jets, though, unfortunately. James Cook is a flex option. I'm still concerned about his potential overall. You start Diggs, obviously. Gabe Davis is a boom or bust wide receiver 3-4 this week. I don't trust him. He's played not very well against the Jets overall. In terms of tight ends, I don't know. I'm not starting Dalton Kincaid in his first game as a tight end. I don't know if I want to start Knox because of the split time that they're going to share in this offense here overall. The Jets side, I'm not starting Rodgers unless it's a QB league, obviously. Running backs, obviously it seems like Dalvin Cook might get more work this week. I think both Cook and Breece Hall are good flex options. I don't think there's upside to be anything more than that, but they should be decent enough flex options, maybe to get you both 10 points. Wide receiver core, you're obviously starting Garrett Wilson, obviously. He's a must-start play this week. I don't think I'm starting any other Jets wide receiver if I don't have to, unless it's deeper league formats. Tyler Conklin, better deeper man league tight end to start. I wouldn't want to start him in like a top 10 or 12-man league. But that is my run-through for the Week 1 starts and sits, or just overall expectation for Week 1. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys tune in next week. I'd love to get more in the audience and ask more questions overall. Really enjoy doing this, so appreciate you for tuning in. Again, less than 30-minute episode here. Join in here. Talks about some football talk. So thanks for listening, guys. Hope you guys have a great Week 1. We'll see you guys Monday night. Talk about waiver wire pickups after Week 1 and how Week 1 went. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and have a good one.